What's up YouTube, it's your boy StanZZ and welcome back to another video here on the channel. And today, as you guys can see, we are working with some Pokemon cards, but it's not my usual setup. You're not seeing my usual amiibos. We're not going to open up any products. Today is Wednesday, and it is a new series on the channel that I want to start basically from every Wednesday from now on, for as long as I can possibly do it. It's going to be deck profiles, and the very first deck profile that we're going to be going over today is one that I actually worked with over the weekend and fell in love with it completely. I know I got a little bit of placement during Anaheim when it first showed up, and then a buddy of mine, David, that goes to one of my locals, he built it and he demolished me completely with it. And I just, ever since then, I've wanted to build it for myself, and I finally got around to doing it. And if you guys don't know already, it is going to be Tauros Giratina. So without further ado, let's get straight into the deck profile. Mine's a little bit, I want to say it's a bit unorthodox. You don't really see it too often the way it's built this way, or at least I haven't really paid attention to the deck profiles, but let's get into it. So to start things off, we have ourselves three Tauros GX, and let's go ahead and zoom in just a little bit right here. And it has 3 attacks, one of them being GX, and it's going to start off with Rage. This attack does 10 more damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon. Then it has Horn Attack for 60, and then it has Mad Bull GX. This attack does 30 damage for each damage counter on this Pokemon, and you can only use one GX attack. All 3 of the attacks only require a double colorless, and it is 180 HP. So we have that to start things off. Let's see, do we have that good placement right there? Sure we do. It's a good placement right there. Then to continue things on, we have ourselves 2 Giratina EX. And it has the ability Renegade Pulse, and it prevents all effects of attacks, including damage done to this Pokemon by your opponent's Mega Evolution Pokemon. And then it has Chaos Wheel for a Grass, a Psychic, and a double colorless. Your opponent can't play any Pokemon Tool, Special Energy, or Stadium cards from his or her hand during his or her next turn. And it has 170 HP, and it is a Dragon type. Yeah, that's good placement right there. Yeah, sure it is. This is my first time doing it, so it's going to be a little bit, testing things off. And then we have 2 copies of Shaymin EX, and it has 110 HP, has the ability set up, which you mainly are going to use it for, but don't get me wrong, the attack does come in handy when it actually, it's actually needed. So, the ability setup, when you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may draw cards until you have 6 cards in your hand. And then it has Sky Return for a double colorless. Return this Pokemon, and all cards attached to it to your hand. So that's not bad at all. So it's, you started off with a Shaymin, you attach the energy, you move on, do your turn, this and that, and you're like, damn, I just wasted a Shaymin. You kind of didn't, because you're going to return it back to your hand anyway with Sky Return. Then we have 1 copy of Hoopa EX, 170 HP. To be honest, I'm only going to read the ability because that's all you're ever going to use it for. When you play this Pokemon from your hand onto your bench, you may search your deck for up to 3 Pokemon EX except Hoopa EX, reveal them, and put them into your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. So that's going to be helpful because that's going to search out our Shaymins and our Giratinas. Unfortunately, it cannot search our Tauros because it is a GX Pokemon, not an EX Pokemon. Another thing that we're going to be doing is going to be a 2-2 line of Trubbish and Garbodor. And the Trubbish, to be honest, it's just a basic. There's nothing to it. The Garbodor is going to be where everything comes into play. So this is the Garbotoxin ability. If this Pokemon has a Pokemon Tool attached to it, each Pokemon played in each player's hand and in each player's discard has no abilities except for Garbotoxin. So this is basically going to shut down all our Shaymin, or not only our Shaymins, but everybody else's Shaymins. So there's that as well. People always question, why run a deck that has Garbodor and Shaymin in it? You play smart, guys. You really do. You play the Shaymins first, then the Garbodor comes later. Then that's actually all for our Pokemon line. I want to say I've seen someone play a basic Mewtwo from Evolutions. It's a good idea, just not for me, to be honest, though. So going into our supporters, we're going to start things off with Professor Sycamore. 4 Professor Sycamores, discard your hand, and draw 7 cards. Coming from another game, you're always wondering why you want to discard your hand. Trust me, consistency is key in the game of Pokemon. Then we go into 2 copies of, and each player shuffles his or her hand into his or her deck, then each player draws a card for each of his or her remaining prize cards. Now what's cool about this is, it's early game, you get 6 cards. Late game and your opponent has taken more prizes, it can kind of hurt them in the long run. So, N is a very good card. As of right now, I don't think you need to play more than 2, but I mean, to each their own. This is just a skeleton so you guys can see. And then we go 1 copy of Lysander. It's switch one of your opponent's bench Pokemon with his or her active Pokemon. Now, I want to play 2. I would have to work around the deck a little bit to play 2. But for right now, I worked with just 1, and I loved it regardless, because I did see it more than just once. Then we go into 1 copy of Delinquent. So discard any stadium card in play. If you do, your opponent discards 3 cards from his or her hand. So this is kind of a little bit of disruption. If your opponent has 3 cards in your hand, there's a stadium out there, or there's a Skyfield even better. You not only minimize the bench size, but you also get rid of the 3 cards they have in their hands. And that's going to be all for our supporters. That's 8 supporters total. And then we go into our item cards. So, 4 copies of Ultra Ball. Ultra Ball, you discard 2 cards from your hand. If you do, search your deck for a Pokemon, reveal it, and put it into your hand. Shuffle your deck afterwards. So, a key play is to Ultra Ball whatever is not necessary and search out a Hoopa to search out a Shaman and Giratina. Basic plays, but the plays are amazing though. Then we go into 4 copies of Versus Seeker. VS Seeker. Put a supporter card from your discard pile into your hand. So, when you're running a low amount of supporters, people are like, oh, you're going to run out of supporters, but that's the point of Versus Seeker. You get those supporters back, and you can do Lysander plays for the future game, Sycamore if you have nothing, you want to get more cards in hand. So Versus Seeker is a must at 4. Then we go into this. I want to say this card's a bit odd. I don't know if the Anaheim build played it, but it is 4 copies of Puzzle of Time. So, you may play 2 Puzzle of Time cards at once. And this it has 2 different abilities. If you played 1, look at the top 3 cards of your deck and put them back in any order. 2, if you played 2 of them, if you played both of them, you put 2 cards from your discard pile back into your hand. So that's an easy way of getting back supporters, items, something like that you had to get rid of early game. You could always get them right back. Continue on with the trend of 4 cards. Maxing out the limit, we are playing 4 Crushing Hammers. So, it's flip a coin if heads, discard an energy attached to your opponent's Pokemon. So, people are like, oh, you're going to rely on the die roll. To be honest, yes I am. If I hit it, I hit it. If I don't, oh well, the game still goes on. It's just like with Pokemon Capture when that started seeing a little bit more play recently. Oh, you're really going to play it? Of course I am. Because if I do get it, it's going to help me out in the long run. Then I play 3 copies of Trainer's Mail. Look at the top 4 cards of your deck. You may reveal a training card you find there, except for a Trainer's Mail, and put it in your hand and shuffle the other cards back into your deck. Some people are like, why don't you just play 4 Trainer's Mail? To be honest, it's not really necessary. The deck actually goes by pretty quickly, so I think 3 is an optimal number. Some decks play even 2, so just to each their own, to be honest. I play 3 copies of Fighting Fury Belt, and it goes, the basic Pokemon this card is attached to gets a plus 40 HP and attacks do 10 more damage to your opponent's active Pokemon before applying weakness and resistance. So there's that. Then we're going into the 2s. We only play 2 ofs. And it's going to start off with a pretty key card. Floatstone. The Pokemon this card is attached to has no retreat cost. So this is going to be the card that you're going to put onto the Garbodor most of the time. It's going to make it to where its Garbotoxin ability comes into play. Then this card, I thought it was, people think of it as a little questionable. I think it's actually really cool. 2 copies of Nest Ball. Search your deck for a basic Pokemon and put it onto your bench. Shuffle your deck afterwards. Now, with this card, I don't search for a Shaman because the ability doesn't activate. Don't search for Hoopa, ability doesn't activate. You can search for a Giratina, you can search for a Tauros, you can search for a Trubbish. So it's a good card to have. Then we're going into our one-ofs. 1 copy of Enhanced Hammer, and it's discarded special energy to one of your opponent's Pokemon. So if you're playing against someone that has double colorless or someone that has double dragon, splash energy, stuff like that, that's an easy way to get rid of that energy without using your crushing hammers. Then we play 1 copy of Special Charge. Shuffle 2 special energy cards from your discard pile into your deck. This is another card where I'm debating about putting a second one in, just in case if I do run into Enhanced Hammer, for example, it's going to get rid of a lot of the necessary cards that I'm going to need. Then I play 1 copy of Escape Rope. Each player switches his or her active Pokemon with one of his or her benched. Your opponent switches first, and if that Pokemon does not have a bench, he or she doesn't switch Pokemon. Then we go into Switch. Switch your active Pokemon with one of your bench Pokemon. So this card is pretty key. If you have the Lysander out, a Hoopa to Hoopa stall you, you can always just switch into what you actually need up front and continue doing your attacks. So that's actually a really good card. Then we go into Super Rod. 1 copy of Super Rod. Shuffle 3 of any combination of Pokemon and basic energy card from your discard pile into your deck. So obviously, if you guys don't get it by now, this deck does not actually play basic energy, so it's going to be shuffling back Pokemon that we absolutely need. Then I play just one Stadium card, and I know people will be like, well, what's the point of playing 1 Stadium card when you have Delinquent? Delinquent, to be honest, is used mostly for your opponent's Stadium cards. Nowadays, it's a very Stadium-heavy game. Forest Giant Plants running around everywhere, Skyfield running around everywhere, so we play 1 copy of Parallel City. So it does have 2 abilities, one reducing the attack by 20 for grass, fire, and water, and then the other side reducing the bench limit from 5 down to only 3. So only 1 copy of Parallel City. And now we go into the energy count. We play 4 double colorless energy, and like I said, that's all Tauros needs. It just needs 1 double colorless energy, and it can do any of the 3 attacks it wants. Double colorless is required for Chaos Wheel as well. This can go for that. Sky Return requires double colorless. This can go for that. So we have that. And then for our Giratina, our lovely Giratina, we play 4 copies of Double Dragon Energy. You can only attach this to a Dragon Pokemon, but it can be literally any energy you'd love for it to be. So for example, that Giratina requires Psychic and Grass. This is Psychic and Grass. So that's going to be it for this deck profile, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed this. Hopefully you guys got a little bit out of this, something a skeleton to work on. But it looks like that's going to be it for this video, guys. Hopefully you guys enjoyed. Make sure you click that like button, subscribe to the channel if you haven't already. Make sure you follow me on Twitter and Instagram, where I'll be posting a lot more information on Pokemon and stuff like that, so you guys get a little bit more knowledge on what I'm doing, what I'm working on, and whatnot, and so you guys can see when my next video is live as well. But until then, guys, catch you guys later. Peace!